G'day legends. Oh, I mean, g'day champions. Sorry. We've got a Vadis here, Vadis, however you want to say it. Another Aussie oddball, and I know an Aussie oddball when I see one because I am one. And here's the back of the cab. So this is a two-part amp. It's got a chassis there and a chassis there jammed in, and then you've got your back and the reverb unit down the bottom covered in corrosion. You got a Plessy 12 PEG. I believe the G was for guitar. There's an Australian made speaker, El Nico. These things sound fantastic. Dad's got a couple of these and they're awesome speakers. Unfortunately they're pretty low power, so most of them are blown. I've already vacuumed up the cockroach poo, the standard cockroach poop that's in every amp. It's got one of these 2-pin connectors that were on all the hi-fi stuff back on the day, all the Mullard Playmaster stuff. And I've desoldered the reverb tank because that was just hardwired to the guts of the amp. So the biggest shortcoming with these Aussie amps is that they discovered particle board a few years earlier, and as a result thought it was the best thing since sliced bread, made everything out of it. But it doesn't really stand the test of time well unless you baby the hell out of it. So this one's not bad. It hasn't been exposed to much moisture, so it's alright. But often they just go all swollen, and once that happens they just fall apart. There's not a lot you can do about that. In the past I have made a mixture of glue, so watered down glue, and actually painted it on chipboard, at least to stop it. It won't get its structural strength back, but at least it will stop it from you know, loose flakes coming off and falling inside the amp. But this one's not too bad in the scheme of things. It's starting to go a little bit there. Panasonic's not very keen on focusing today. Panny boy, come on, behave yourself. We'll have to go get a Sony. So, onto the chassis. The chassis. Well, here they are. And since there's two of them, what would you call them? Chassises? Anyway, here they are. Preamp one here. Power amp one here. Now, they sound pretty rattly. We'll see how they perform, if they're alright. Got a rectifier there, two EL34s, sorry. Oh, it's okay guys, we don't have to fix it because it's tested. It's fine. So we've got a normal channel, tremolo channel, including reverb. I don't have time to trace this one fully out like I have done in the past. And it is, of course, a bit of a rare one, so there's not really any documentation anyway, so fantastic. Everything's covered in quite a bit of dust and grunge, as is customary at Brad's Guitar Garage. Now there's a plug here, which is just made up out of essentially a valve base. It's got the same octal format there, and that couples the two chassis together, so that carries audio as well as power. Now here's a look up the skirt of the preamp end anyway. So there's another twin flex, what do you call it, figure 8 cable. That's just turning on and off the mains, and then your pilot light attached to the mains there as well. Now the construction is a combination of tag strip and point to point, and we've got all the old original caps here. The mustards actually look okay. Normally they've got cracks around the edges, but these ones might all be good. So it probably hasn't seen much use. I've subbed in some plate resistors there because I found some that were open circuit, so I have started diagnosing this one and seeing what's going on. And that one was definitely open. And we're getting signal now, but it's very crackly and very rough, and we want to do a recap as well, and the customer was happy to do that. He's had this thing for years and wants it to be reliable. Again, you get the weird values, 24 microfarad, 500 volt axial there. I think we'll be okay with the 22. What do you reckon? Two oofs, two spare oofs. Got a little steel cover across the tremolo vibrato input there, whatever you want to call it, for a bit of shielding. Maybe they were having some oscillations or something happen. And the volume pot on that channel appears to be the odd one out, so maybe that's been replaced. Oh no, wait, there's another one. So they look to be sealed. So if they're scratchy, we might have to replace them because no cleaning fluids will make it in there. You can see there the sealant from manufacture, so hopefully those ones are okay. The others we can just clean as usual. But all in all, not too crusty, and looks reasonably recoverable with Dare I say it, not too much labour. Oh, there you go, they're making it too easy for us. 5Y3 GT and 6 CA7s. Two of them. So the valve sockets were very tight, which is promising. No real evidence of arcing or any crustiness there, so that's good. Now look inside the power amps, power supply end. Got the big filter caps there. They are like 4 times the size of what they are these days for the same job. Got a fuse, that's nice. But yeah, it's pretty clean. What often is the case with these amps is the outside looks super crusty. You open up the inside and she's pretty pristine, so that's good. Looks like no one's ever been in here. That's the biggest threat to amplifiers, other people. Nothing ruins a good time like people. Alright, so first thing to do, remove all these valves and give this chassis a good old clean. Just get rid of the dust bunnies for starters, and then look at the valve sockets, that kind of thing. And just a few spots that drew my attention. So that's 2 parallel resistors to form a dropper there, and they look a bit overheated. The caps are showing some slight cracking to the end caps there, like the rubber's all dried out, and there is evidence that some either vapors or fluid has leaked out the end there. It's all got a bit of layer of schmoo on it. And these ones are starting to bulge out, little pimples there. Might be a bit hard to make out in this light, but in the plugs there's a vent area, and it bulges as the cap starts oozing, and no good. The customer himself suggested a recap for this one from memory, and I said that's probably a good idea. These Elners carry on for an ungodly amount of time and seem to perform okay until they don't. So we're going to change it for longevity and put some new ones in there, and check everything else for drift. The usual, you know, same old story, vintage stuff. So this is a cathode biased configuration on the outputs there. You can see the 270 ohm 5 watt there, unbypassed. That's pretty common on this era of Aussie amps. And all the connections are well done, probably a bit too well done to be honest, because if we need to change anything, you've got to unwrap all those leads around the tags. But you know, she ain't getting cracked solder joints, that's for sure. Even the paralleled up components there have actually got like a J hook or a twist happening in them. They're not just tack soldered. That's probably going to be the sign of the rework in this one, where anything's tack soldered. Yeah, this resistor here looks like it's an aftermarket deal. Its solder joint is just tack soldered, unlike all the others. So not sure what that's there for. I'll have to have a look at the circuit, trace out a little bit of it and see what it even is. So I'm just giving all the valve pins a clean with a brass bristle brush. Give it as best a chance as possible of actually conducting. That would be nice. Giving the sockets a little bit of a clean, just to try to eliminate any bad connections, because that can just be addressed by cleaning, and we want to find any actual faults in the circuit so we can address them right to you know where. Right, here goes nothing. Now I've already fired this up when I did the quote. Now we're actually going ahead with the job, so I am aware that, you know, nothing's catastrophically shorted and we've got the correct fuse in there. I'm monitoring the power draw from the wall meter, so if anything tries to run away, we can jump on the power switch. But it's also cathode biased, so you can sort of rest a little easier knowing that. There is still a possibility something could arc or something could go south, so we'll just flick it off if that's the case while I'm watching the power meter on the wall. So fortunately there is a external speaker outlet, which is handy because that stupid connector is unobtainium now. But that is just paralleled with a standard 1/4 inch jack output, so we can just plug our test cabinet straight in and forget about that crazy connector until we put it back in the cabinet. Now we've got no reverb tank plugged in, but it's not driven by a transformer, so we don't have to worry too much about flyback events or anything like that. Straight away we've got a lot of hum. We've got crackling we've got ticking. Now the ticking is probably my phone. So I'll get rid of that. Oh, we've got some more crackling. So at first I thought the ticking was a tremolo. I adjusted the speed, there was no difference to the speed. And then it had that sort of weird digitally noise, and my phone's just up there. Normally it doesn't affect units like that far away, but this may have some questionable shielding as well. So let's plug in and see if we can see what it sounds like. Dead. Alright, normal channel. Signal. Just go into this channel again. Oop. That socket might be a bit beyond it. Alright, easiest thing first, let's swap some valves out. Alright, so I'll swap the valve out. I can hear that there's oscillation happening with the tremolo because it's modulating the hum. A bit difficult to make out there because there's a bit less signal than expected. Alright, now we've got a lot more signal. Still no guitar, but there's a lot more noise. Oop, we've got some activity. So something's trying, but I think something's in cutoff. So yeah, nothing's that easy. We'll have to flip it over and diagnose the problem before we go crazy changing parts. Righto, being an Aussie amp, like most Aussie cars of this vintage, it's up on blocks. So we can take some measurements. Now, I think something might either be leaking, or we've got a bad connection, or a coupling cap's dead. It sounded the way that we were getting some fluctuating distorted signal come through, that maybe something's drifting in and out of bias in the preamp stages. So that's going to be the first place I'll look. Well, actually the first place is I'll just check all the valves are conducting, and there's what we would expect dropped across the plate loads, and that will tell us that the tubes are actually conducting. Sorry, I said tubes again, I've been talking to too many Americans. The valves are conducting, and we'll go from there. Process of elimination. Alright, so after a bit of jiggling, we've got signal on both channels now. So I think the main problem is corroded socket contacts. So we'll go a bit deeper in cleaning them and go from there. But we've got volume. We've got tremolo. And now we have a hum. We had a 100 Hertz hum that came and went there, so I'd say that's the caps on the way out, not liking being powered up. So I think we can call it there. We'll do some work and see where we stand after that. So looking up close, the sockets aren't too bad. I think it's more of a matter of there's a bit of corrosion on the actual pins from the valves themselves. So we'll give this a clean up. It's got a little bit of surface crap there, but nothing too bad. But on the valves themselves, these pins are cleaning up okay. Here's one I've done with a little bit of Scotch-Brite, and that's one beforehand. You can see it's got like a blackened sort of coating on it, and it's pretty hard to remove, and that seems to be pretty common. All these old amps come in with pretty bad pins, and once you clean them up, often the valve comes back to life. Alright, so I've cleaned up all the sockets, reinstalled all the valves, and it's a lot better. There's a lot of scratchiness to the pots and whatnot still. And those volume ones might not come good, the sealed ones I discussed earlier, so we might have to replace them. But the biggest issue is anywhere on the chassis, less sensitive as you go to the power side, more sensitive towards the input side, is making that horrible noise, and that is these contacts. They're not shorting reliably. So we might have to replace a jack. Kind of hard to show you while I'm holding it there, but when I short those two out, no issue. You can see what happens when I try and tighten these jacks. See the center barrel just spins. So the stack of laminations isn't tight enough to be able to tighten it reliably. It just spins. When you look here, that one is tight, but the whole stack of laminations is moving. So 2 shitty jacks, well 4 shitty jacks that we should replace with Switchcrafts. Alright, so now we've got it stable enough, sort of, to start doing some just test recordings. You can hear that hum there. As soon as you hold that contact on that input jack, it goes away. I've got the volume up there. Turn that down, gets rid of it. I've got reverb is not connected. We'll test that later on. I've checked the DC resistances of the tank, and they're about what you'd expect for a direct driven tank. So let's just plug in and have a quick listen and see what it sounds like. Alright, we'll just go into the normal input now. See the difference there? So somewhat less gain on the normal channel as opposed to the tremolo input channel. We've probably got 220s on the plates there, and I've got 220s there too. I don't know. I'll have to sketch this out, sketch it out. That's my hand movement for sketching out a signal schematic. My God, I've got to go home. One thing to note is the output valves are a little bit microphonic. If they had the top mounted spring clamps, that might help, but they've got a bit of a rattle. I'll just try and show you that now. And that's not the end of the world, but when it's in the combo cabinet, it might be a little bit worse. They are separated by that shelf that you saw in the middle though, so that probably helps a bit. But it sometimes gets to the point where just the slight vibration from the mains on the transformer starts sort of triggering the valves, and they sort of ring along with it, which isn't very nice. But it's either that or a new set of EL34s, and that ain't the cheapest thing going around. I'll give the option to the owner, that's fine, and if he wants to do that, that's fine. He can keep them as spares because they're performing okay otherwise. So I think I'll just get to work on this one, and I'll show you the finished result. I don't think it's going to sound that different. There was some ghost noting, which I'll show you in a sec, but I think that's partially just because you've got only 24 microfarad on the first node. as a reservoir cap, so even with the new ones I think you'll still have some ghosting, but there was a 100 hertz hum that was coming in and out earlier, and I think because this amp sat a while, some of those caps aren't too happy, and it's not like they just fix themselves. I mean, tell the reforming guys that, the cap reformer camp, but you can't just magically inject them with more electrolytes, so I think it's time for them to fuck right off. Now, before I call it a day, I'll just show you that ghosting that I'm talking about. Alright, so that's pretty obvious there. In all cases it seems to be most obvious on the G string around the 9th fret, 9th to 12th fret. So you'll often hear when I'm trying an amp out, I'll play around there and just play single notes, let them ring for a sec, and go up and down the fretboard just to confirm that it's sort of like a ring modulation sort of sound. There's that hum coming and going. Anyway, I'll leave it for now, legends, and catch you on the next one. And I probably won't bother with sound samples then, but I'll just show you the work, and we'll get on to the next one. Thanks for watching, legends.